Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Last week, the Delhi police busted a kidney racket that had been operating in the city. The gang that was running this racket had targeted over 15 people who were mostly young, poor, and houseless. The news broke out after the police managed to arrest 10 people involved in the operations.
Another crime here, a high-profile kidney racket that's been busted in South Delhi.
हौसखास थाना पुलिस ने इस पूरे मामले में एक डॉक्टर समेत 10 लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया है जो इस पूरे रैकेट में लिप्त थे।
गैंग के रैकेट के तार दिल्ली से लेकर हरियाणा तक जुड़े थे। ये गैंग किडनी लेने के लिए गरीब असहाय लोगों को निशाना बनाते थे।
Now such rackets have operated in the past as well and continue to operate even today. And there is a reason why kidney rackets in particular have remained prevalent in India. In this episode, we talk about why that is the case, how it can be stopped, and what you can do about it. But first we talk about this Delhi racket case, because this case illustrates quite well how such rackets operate and how people fall prey to them. In this case, one of the victims had been this guy called Raghu. When we spoke to Indian Express's Jignasa Sinha, she told us about him and the entire matter. Jignasa, so tell us, who is Raghu and how did he fall prey to this racket?
Raghu is a 21-year-old man from Gujarat, Kutch. He came to Delhi in April this year in search of a job. Because of COVID-induced lockdown, his father had lost his job and his mother, who was a diabetes patient, she was admitted to a hospital, but the family could not afford to pay the bills and the doctors there forcefully discharged her. His sister also got married, but then he has, those pending bills and he could not find a job in Gujarat because of the lockdown situation there. So he shifted to Delhi in search of a livelihood and was trying to find a job. But in the 1 or 2 months he was here, he could not find a job and he had to live outside a Gurudwara to survive. During the time he was in Delhi, he was approached by an agent of the gang who told him to join the gang and donate his kidney. He would be getting good money. And the gang slowly started to counsel him, telling him that, it's a noble job. If he does it, he'll not only be able to help his family, but will also be, able to help someone else's family, save life and all. So Raghu was confused, but he was also, tempted by the amount he was being offered. And these agents, these men, the gang, they were asking him to come meet them in Paschim Vihar, in Hoskhas, and provide him accommodation, food, medical treatment, medicines, everything.
And how much money was he being offered to give up his kidney?
So he was offered 3 lakhs for the entire thing. And he told us that, he was happy at that time because he thought with that money he can pay his bills, he can go back home, maybe start a new job and, help his family, help his mother in the treatment. But what happened was he then felt that, it's not a nice thing to do, it's illegal, and if he does it, he might go to jail, and he started saying no. But the other gang members, they tried to coax him into this. And later when he donated his kidney, he was taken to Gohana, that's in Haryana, and he was taken to this clinic where they removed his kidney, where they treated him, and later the recipient, he paid him 20,000 rupees extra for the whole thing.
And what made him pay this extra money to Raghu?
The recipient paid him extra because Raghu told him about his family issues, the problems he's been facing. And the recipient was like, yeah, I'm thankful that you've given your kidney, so let me just give you some extra money. So that's how he got the extra money. And when we spoke to him, he was happy that he got the money, but he's still very confused and skeptical about the whole thing. And he says that, he wished he had not donated his kidney. He's very young and, he has his whole life in front of him. And now he's donated his kidney to somebody he does not even know, and it's not legal, So that's why.
Okay, so Raghu, he's only 21 and he was experiencing some really tough financial problems. So are these the kind of people that this racket typically targeted?
So the entire modus operandi of the gang is to target young men in their 20s and 30s. What agents are told is that, look for these homeless or jobless people outside hospitals, be gurudwaras, see temples, because that's where, these agents go every day. They scout for these men, and the process is complex because, first it has to be under the radar. You can't be caught while doing this. So they have to carefully select somebody, target these men. then counsel them, coax them into doing all this. And when they think that the person is ready, then they conduct like multiple medical tests and the screening. And after all that, they take the person from Delhi to Gohana for the surgery. So yeah, the whole thing is to lure these men with money, that we'll give you good money, 3 to 4 lakhs, depending on the recipient, how much the recipient is ready to pay. We'll pay you good money. We'll give you treatment. You just have to donate us your kidney. And the other person, the donor, is obviously not educated enough to know the complications of all this. And he's that, one can live without kidney. So then why not?
And is there a particular reason they targeted young men? I mean, is it because they are easier to target, or is it because they are more likely to have a healthier kidney?
Easy to target them, and also like a young man has a healthy kidney usually, so it's easy for their recipients, right? Because that's what their target audience is like. They look for young people, they look for a healthy kidney that's gonna stay in the recipient's body for long. So for that, they do want a young man who can donate the kidney easily.
Okay, so in this racket, more than 15 people were targeted. Raghu was one of them. What do we know about the others?
So the gang has 2 ways to target these people. One is obviously going out on streets and looking for them, and the second is through social media. So they have these Facebook pages called Kidney Donation Group, Need Kidney or something like that, and there they look for both recipients and donors. So one of the other victims is Divakar. He's a 32-year-old momo seller from Assam, and he joined this group through social media. So unlike Raghu, Divakar was looking for something like this because he needed money. Again, he was also, we can call him like a victim of the whole COVID situation, because he had lost his job. He had a momo stall and was earning good money, but he lost his job. He has a wife, he has a brother, he has 2 kids to take care of. He's a sole breadwinner. He recently got into an accident where he lost his scooter. He was helpless. He felt that, everything is going wrong for him and he needs to earn money. So he came across this gang on the Facebook group where the gang members again, lured him with money and even offered to pay for his flight ticket. They were like, don't come by train. Come to Delhi by flight. We will pay for everything. For your flight, for your hotel accommodation. We'll make you stay at a good place. You will be taken to Gohana. When after the surgery, we'll take you back to Delhi. You will stay at Paschim Vihar and we'll take care of you for 2 to 3 days. So when you go back home, you're in good health. So yeah, I mean, Raghu was obviously tempted and, he came to Delhi via flight because they promised to pay for it. And they did pay for it.
And Jignasa, right now we have been talking about the people who were targeted in this racket. But who were the people who ran this racket?
So the alleged kingpin of this gang is an operation theatre technician named Kuldeep Ray. He's been working with hospitals for over a decade, and he was earlier working with a Rajasthan-based gang with the same MO. They're also selling kidneys and transplanting them illegally. So he was inspired by that, and when he saw the other gang's activities, he was only a part of the surgeries at that time, and he saw that, he could start his own thing, earn way more money. So he started one in Delhi. And because he had been working in the industry for over a decade, he started approaching doctors, agents. For him, approaching agents was easier because, you can get these agents everywhere. So yeah, everybody was assigned a special task that, you have to do this, you have to do that. He then, tried talking to the doctors he had worked with, offered them good money. So we know that one of the doctors, whose name is Dr. Saurabh Mittal, who used to just give anesthesia, he was paid 1.5 to 2.5 lakhs per operation. And that is good money for any doctor just for a single operation, which he might have to do just once a week. He just had to go from Delhi to Gohana, give anesthesia and come back.
Right, this Dr. Saurabh Mittal, he was the one who worked for a big hospital in Delhi, right?
Yeah, so Dr. Mittal works at B.L. Kapoor Hospital in Delhi, and he's a senior doctor there. When we spoke to B.L. Kapoor about the whole thing, they said there are people working under them who have joined the gang, but they were not aware of the situation, and they are now cooperating with the police about the whole investigation. And there's another doctor who has been arrested now, Dr. Priyansh. He works as a general surgeon with a private hospital in Delhi, in Dwarka. And he was asked to join the gang to perform small surgeries for the, donors.
And you mentioned that the mastermind of this gang was this guy called Kuldeep Ray. Now, one of the things that the police mention about him is that he was inspired by the Bollywood movie 3 Idiots. How is that?
So I don't know how to say this, but he's cocky about what he does. He has no regrets about when he was arrested, everything. He told the police that I have zero regrets. I think I've done a great job. And one of the surprising things about the gang is that though Kuldeep has been working with many of the senior doctors, all the operations that were performed by the gang were performed by Kuldeep. These were not operations performed by the senior doctors. They would assist him. So an OT technician was the head surgeon in the gang, because according to Kuldeep, like that's what he tells police, that he thinks that he's a Rancho from the movie Three Idiots. He thinks that he's a brilliant surgeon who's gifted, and he claims that he has 99.9% success rate in operations. Even the police followed up with his claims, and they found that all of the victims, the donors and the recipients in the gang, all of them are healthy, all of them are fine. None of them ever complained of any post-operation complication or anything. So Kuldeep stands tall with claims like, I have no bad record and I will continue to do surgeries because that's what I'm good at. I'm a good surgeon despite I think he has some minor disability in his left hand, but he thinks that he's gifted and he's very inspired by the movie Three Idiots. He thinks that, he was made for excellence, and though illegally, but yeah, he thinks that that's what he's been doing, and what he's been doing is good, is great. He's been helping people and making good money out of it.
And Jignasa, this racket had been operating for some time. Do we know how the police managed to crack down on it?
So on May 26th, police received information that there are a few men who are roaming outside AIMS hospital and Gurudwaras and trying to look for these poor people, and they're trying to target them for the gang. When police received this information, they obviously thought, these are just a few agents who are trying to make a buck. And they conducted raids and they found one of the men, Sarabjit, who's an agent with the gang, and caught him. They caught him with a victim named Pintu Yadav, and Yadav complained that he was not told about the kidney racket. He was just told that he would be treated for abdominal pain and Sarabjit will take him to a hospital. But he was taken to this clinic where Sarabjit was trying to force him to donate his kidney. So the police then started questioning Yadav and, asking him about if he knows other gang members and what places he has been taken to. And then slowly the police found that, the gang is operating from different places like Paschim Vihar, from horse cars, and they have connections with labs in Delhi where they conduct these medical tests. And after further raids and when more accused people were arrested from Delhi, they went to Gohana and discovered this medical setup where the operations take place.
And Jignasa, does the police have any idea as to how many such rackets are operating in the city and even across the country?
So the police right now have only discovered these two rackets. One is the Rajasthan-based racket and the one they've busted. And they think that there might be more because, according to Ray's statement during the interrogation, they found that he was a member of more such gangs with links in Delhi, Himachal, and also they suspect that, there are more gangs with similar modus operandi who are looking for men outside hospitals, who are looking for men outside Gurudwaras and, trying to target them.
Now, like mentioned earlier, this Delhi racket is not an isolated case. Just 2 weeks back, there was a similar racket that was busted in Pune, and in Delhi, another racket was busted some 6 years ago as well. And like Jignasa said, there are probably multiple rackets operating in the country right now. But the question is, why does this happen? Why is there a market for such rackets in the country? Even though you can go to jail for 10 years and pay a fine of 1 crore rupees for being part of such rackets. Indian Express's Anonna Dutt, who reports on health, answers this question for us.
So, first of all, kidney is the most in-demand organ. Every year, there are 2 lakh people who reach end-stage kidney failure and they would need a transplant or dialysis. And every year, we perform about anywhere between 5 to maybe 9,000 transplants across the country. And another probably 20,000 people can afford dialysis and are able to access dialysis because it's not like we have a lot of dialysis machines as well. Although we are making progress in that direction. But Apart from the 20,000 odd people who can afford dialysis and probably 5 to 9,000 people who can get the transplant, the other people, which is like 1.7 lakh people, they do not have any further treatment options. They lose their health and they eventually die. So this is the reason people are willing to pay that money and are willing to take the risk of jail time, facing fine, just to get the organ, because there is just a huge supply demand mismatch when it comes to organs.
And why is there this big supply demand mismatch? As in, what is the reason we don't have enough donors available in the country?
So for organ donations, there are two types of organ donation that can happen. One is deceased donor transplants and one is living donors. Living donors, at present, the law approves only your close relatives, such as probably your wife, children, parents, siblings, grandparents and grandchildren. Other than that, you can also, like a close friend or your in-laws or some relative who's not your immediate family members, they can also donate. But in that case, it's known as living unrelated donor, and the process is longer to verify that they indeed are your relatives or they are doing this out of like just a charity. There's no monetary exchange involved, basically. That's what they have to look at. So what most of these scams do now is that they try to forge documents to prove that these unrelated people are sort of donating out of the goodwill of their heart and like it's nothing monetary. That's how these scams get passed off, with forged documents, including like photographs and whatnot. So that's one thing. And when it comes to the deceased donors, we hardly have any donations happening. Like we have one of the highest incidents of road traffic accidents in the world. And most of the cases of road traffic accidents, the people are brain dead. The victims are brain dead. And they make for the ideal candidate for a transplant. But there are myths. The most prevalent myth is that if we donate the organs, they will be born without organs in the next life. Or things like people also have this fear that, these organs are sold in the market. So we haven't been able to crack this deceased donor transplants. Whereas if you look at the Western countries, most of their organ transplants happen from the brain dead people. And now we have started also doing harvesting organs from people who have had cardiac death. But in that case, the window of opportunity for harvesting the organs is very limited because as soon as the blood circulation stops, you have to immediately do the surgery. Otherwise, the organs die off. In either case, in deceased donors, we haven't been able to convince people to donate their organs. It's going up, but very slowly. So if I give example of kidney transplants from 2019, some 9,700 transplants happened in the country, but only about 1,100 were from deceased donors. The rest was all living related donors. Another problem that happens is in cases where the family members also agree to donate the organs, you do the tests and find out they themselves have some condition like high BP, which is so common in our country, and then they can't donate the kidney.
And you write that this problem is actually getting worse because kidney problems have been on the rise, right?
Yes, so kidney failure is on the rise. That is majorly because of increasing incidence of diabetes and hypertension in the country. India is known as the diabetes capital. Hypertension is also on the rise. And then we have obesity, which is again increasing. And that again leads to diabetes and hypertension, which leads to kidney failure. So now what happens is, in a lot of cases, people don't even realize that their kidneys are not functioning at 100%. It's like the kidneys have these filtration units called nephrons. Each kidney has about 1 million nephron, if I'm not wrong. And these slowly start getting damaged when you constantly have uncontrolled hypertension and diabetes. And a lot of people reach the stage where it's like the filtration is less than 15%. And that's when you suddenly realize that you need a kidney transplant. So other than trying to manage with lifestyle changes, trying to manage your hypertension, diabetes, obesity, we also have to focus on yearly checkups for people over the age of 30, 35. So that you are also able to catch whether you have hypertension quickly, get on medication so it's controlled and doesn't damage your kidney. So these are the two important things. One is lifestyle changes and second is the diagnosis if you do have hypertension. But yes, all of it is going up and that's why kidney failure is going up.
Okay, so you have a situation where kidney disease is going up and you don't have enough donors available in the market. And you also have these myths floating around about organ donation, that in the next life you will be born without organs and that these organs will be sold in the black market. And this is the reason why kidney rackets are so prevalent. But is there something about this organ that makes this possible? Like, what is the reason why we don't see more eye or liver rackets, for example?
Right. There is a reason for that. One of the biggest reasons is that we have been doing kidney transplants for 50 odd years now in the country. The first one happened in 1971. Since then, a lot of doctors, OT technicians, nurses have been trained in kidney transplants. A lot of centers perform kidney transplants, and the procedure for a kidney transplant is more or less standardized. So it's not a very, of course there is a risk. It's a transplant procedure, but the risk is not as high as, say, if you're undergoing a liver transplant. Then it's also a low resource setting thing. Like a liver surgery is complex. You have to actually cut out a portion of the liver and you need a lot of infrastructure. Then the donor also has to have a lot of support after the surgery. Also, the cost of the surgery. So kidney transplant can happen in anywhere between like 5 to 10 lakh maximum. And in that case, what happens is that the racketeers can charge higher to the patients, and patients have the money and are willing to pay that money to get the transplant. With a liver transplant, for example, the cost itself is very high. So you won't be able to get more money out of people. So that's also one of the reasons. We have trained manpower, it's cheapest, and it's a low resource setting thing.
And is it also the fact that in these cases, the victim's life doesn't change much after their kidney is taken away?
Right. So even in case of a liver, the liver grows back, but in that period, you have to support the donor quite a bit. I forgot to mention, but transplant is a better option for people who are in kidney failure rather than dialysis, because dialysis is expensive. Kidney transplant at the end of the day is actually cost effective, and the quality of life is much better at the end of the day. So it's better for them to pay that 20 lakh or whatever they're asking to get a transplant. But coming back to your question, yes, the donor's life is not really altered after a kidney transplant. They can live a healthy life. It's just that, instead of 2, you have 1 kidney. So it's like a safety net gone. But otherwise, you can do everything that a healthy individual does without 1 kidney. So that is also a reason why racketeers target kidney for the transplants.
And Anonna, what do experts say should be done to stop these kidney rackets from taking place?
So for stopping these scams, the most important thing is to increase the availability of the organs. And the best solution is to increase cadaveric donations. So all the experts urge everyone to become an organ donor. You can go to the Noto website or the Orbo Center at AIMS and you can pledge your organs. But more important than that is that you bring your family on board so that in case if a mishap happens with you, they actually consent to donating your organs, because without the consent, the doctors cannot harvest your organs. So sign up and also encourage your family members to follow through with your wishes. Other than that, of course, is bringing down the kidney diseases itself. And for that, we have to start young. We have to start modifying our lifestyle. One is, of course, exercise. You have to exercise 30 to 40 minutes each day. Eat healthier. Have fruits, vegetables. Reduce intake of salt. We consume a lot of salt. So reduce the intake of salt. Reduce consumption of saturated fats. So all the lifestyle modifications which basically result in reduction in obesity, reduction in hypertension, reduction in diabetes. If we reduce all these 3, kidney failure would reduce automatically, because diabetes and hypertension actually lead to almost 50% of the kidney failures in the country. So that is what we need to address. So lifestyle changes is very important for us now, because incidence of all non-communicable diseases is going up in India.
You were listening to 3 Things by The Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.